y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that.
What's up guys, it's Project and welcome once again to what I call the build season. Over the weeks and perhaps even months, I'll be making builds for you guys just like this one here, so make sure to subscribe to get near weekly builds to try out. And with that, let's get on with the show. The recent Defiant Honor DLC gave us a brand new weapon class, the Tonfa, so this build is specialized around it. I call this build the Devastator, named after the exploding skill you've seen, Devastation. Now, most of the footage you saw in the montage is Way of the Demon, but that's because I haven't had time to go deep into Way of the Wise yet, and most people aren't at that endgame anyways, so this is a build to handle Way of the Demon for those still playing that mode, and to take on the early regions of Way of the Wise, before eventually going into ethereal sets and forever ditching Divines behind. With that said, I limited myself to be as close in power to normal Way of the Demon builds, as far as gear level, character level, and using only Divines goes. This is so you can have a fair comparison point against other builds or build videos from before DLC as possible. And it's easier to build at the moment for most people where ethereals are rare and RNG based in Way of the Wise, and many have not gotten full sets yet. Now, it took me quite some testing and tinkering with setups, but I came to the conclusion that this was the best of the bunch I tested against, of which were full Japan Bravest, 5-piece Sarutobi, and a 3-set mixed setup that gave 36% close combat damage total, all of which still lost in damage to this setup you see now. So let's go over the weapon that makes this build worth it, since it's the most important piece. Sasuke's Tonfas are the best Tonfas in the game, simply due to a unique special ability only found on them, Tonfa Gun. This allows for the which allows the moves it's tied to deal more damage. It's also part of Sasuke's set, which is average to bad, but it has a key stat we need, and that is disabling parry. No, not for PvP, though it comes in handy for that, but it has a special hidden PvE use of allowing you to combo after attacks to a guarding enemy. Normally when you attack a human that's guarding, you'll bounce off them in an animation. This prevents you from comboing into combo skills like Devastation that need an attack to be used beforehand in order to be used. So what parry disables does for weapons is allows them to not bounce off, meaning you can combo. We also get the standard 12% close combat damage on the set for damage. You may ask, why not 5-piece Sarutobi? It's because the equipment lightness bonus damage sucks super bad, especially at heavier weight under B agility. And with just 3 pieces of Sarutobi, no other armor, it gave less than 4% damage boost at only 5.0 weight from my test I did with it. So it's terrible. Moving on to the other half of the setup is the new Sanada set, Scion of Virtue. This is where a lot of our damage comes from, since we not only get 12% CCD, but also near 18% thrust damage, which Devastation is treated as thrust damage. We also get Everlasting Ki, which is still confusing to me since it doesn't mean you can run or attack forever, but why not, it's extra. Now Sanada's 6th bonus gives you double damage for the next attack you do after performing a dash attack. You might think,
well, why the hell wouldn't you pick that?
And the simple reason is, Devastation is a combo move, meaning you always have to use a quick attack before you devastate. So after dashing and hitting, only the quick attack will get the boost, and then the boost is gone. So that's not worth losing near 13% CCD from Sarutobi's set, nor the parry disable thing. Also, since Tonfas like dual swords or dual weapons, only one of the actual Tonfas gets the damage buff, not both. So it's only good for big one-hit attacks such as EI or even Sign of the Cross. Double damage is still a lot, and stuff like Axe, Lumber Chop, and stuff like that. So it's pretty much only good for weapons that do big damage in one hit. Moving back to Tonfas though, here are the stats I've chosen. This stuff should be standard by now, simply copy these if you want all the damage dealing stats. If you want more defense, replace weakened torso with weakened melee, though you kinda need the damage, and our spirit I'll talk about later will make enemy damage sort of irrelevant. For ranged weapon you want cannon, since Devastation Blast also deals some fire damage, so why not more? Get either A agility or ninjutsu damage bonus. For my test, A agility gave around 800 more damage compared to ninjutsu, but my dexterity is only at 70, so unsure if 99 will push it over A agility. You'd have to test that. Then we have Raven for life recovery and damage reduction. Now for stats on armor and charms, I'm handling them different now. I hate talking over literally the same stats I get all the time for each piece for nearly every build, so now I'm just going to put all of them in one screen for you to pause and copy what you want. If you made it to Weighted Demon, you should know by now what stats to get. Get attack on all armor by inheriting from gloves, get bonus from a Amrita absorption of your choice, get yokai close combat damage on both charms, and the rest is up to you. Though, with ethereals existing, I didn't bother upgrading or worrying too much about stats on divine gear, and neither should you. However, there is one very important stat you must have on this setup, and that is tenacity. Tenacity prevents recurring damage from killing you, like fire, poison, or more importantly, our own leeching charm, so make sure to have that. Now moving on to our character's stats, here is the level I stopped at and the stats I chose. Tonfa's scale was skill, body, and dex, so get skill to 99 first, then body, then dex last. All the other stats need to be gotten first, however. As you see on the right, I put up the minimum required stats and level to make the build. I do not pass 30.1 weight, so I stick with A agility damage bonus. And also your defense will be much higher if you actually upgrade your armor, which I didn't. Now for spirits, this is also an important talking point. You might immediately say,
wait a minute, that's not Kato, that's not Karajishi, that's sure as hell not Tengen. Wouldn't those be better?
Short answer, yes, but only to the latter of that question. In my Defiant Honor playthrough, I sort of breezed by Sanada's Spirit Enku stats, calling it good but not too great, well, was wrong, as this might be the best spirit to have for progressing Way of the Wise, and all that comes to one unique skill it has, Nullified Damage Dash Attack. Now the wording when pressing help makes you think it's an enemy hitting you with a dash attack, but that's wrong and probably a mistranslation, since when I perform a dash attack, I become immune to all damage for under 5 seconds. I still lose ki or get stunned when I get hit, but I will not take damage, and so long as I keep dash attacking, I can keep the buff up. There's also a version of evasion attacks for doubling your damage or nullifying damage on ethereals, so it's arguably the best effect in the game considering how hard Way of the Wise is. That in turn means more maintenance, however, from your part if you want to keep yourself immune or if you want to keep your damage doubled. But moving on, Enku also has some pretty great stats overall anyways, damage-wise. Thrust attack damage up when an enemy is attacking you, which nullifies anyways. It also has great living weapon stats, however, you can't perform a dash attack in living weapon, so you can't activate the buff, unfortunately. And for my secondary spirit, I chose Bishop for the Pierce Guard so we can deal some sort of damage to blocking humans, which this build has some trouble with. For our clan, I went with Tokugawa.
Why not damage clans like Honda or Kuroda?
Well, because Way of the Wise is scary, nearly everything can 1 or 2 shot you if you're not a Tatanashi Harashi build, right? So, to counter that terrible balance by Team Ninja, if we're gonna get one shot, what better stat to have than 30% chance to prevent being one shot? So you have a 30% chance of when you get hit above 30% health by a hit that would kill you, you live with 1 HP remaining. So it's effectively a quick change scroll, except it doesn't reset your buffs. So you don't even lose a quick change you have activated. It will occasionally prevent a game over, so I think it's worth it over 10 to 12% damage. It also has elixir boost, which means elixirs heal near 90% of our life from one elixir. If you're still away the demon though, I'd probably go for a more damaging clan like Honda or Kuroda. And here are the talisman and passives from Nioh ninja trees, as well as non-main weapon passives you need to get. Pause the video to get them all for your character in one convenient screen. Leeching talisman provides the most damage now over Carnage, and with tenacity we never die from it, and with nullify damage and or Tokugawa, we can use Hermit Talisman to have infinite poise and not worry about dying. You want to equip Sacred Waters on your belt, however, for fast ki regen to do the chaining combos I do, and to also keep your ki up so you can always dash attack and do the Devastation combo. And finally, moving on to skills, here are the Tonfa skills. Those who watch my Defiant Honor playthrough know all about these already since I covered them in the first episode. However, there is quite a few important things to talk about regarding them. Before that, I did test all of Tonfa's major skills against the frog boss. Each skill hit when it was at full life to get good numbers, with no armor equipped and a blank Tonfa with no stats. And the strongest skill that Tonfa has is no other than what our build focuses on, Devastation, as it outdamages all the other skills by quite a significant amount. In my playthrough I focused on Wild Lions, which is a nice move, but just like you saw in my playthrough, most time human enemies would get hit by the first hit, block the second, and then backstep or strafe to the side, basically causing me to waste majority of the damage as I hit Casper, since it locks you in place. And yeah, it's a nice skill for yokai and probably a good living weapon skill. However, by itself, it just isn't that great. Regardless, we do take it because why not? Then we take 3 Wars Kata, which reduces ki damage done to you, kind of whatever. Then we have Shove, a nice ki break skill. And then we take Buoyancy, which increases damage in proportion to armor lightness, much like Sarutobi's 5th piece set bonus. But if it's anything like Chainsaw Attack Star Effect on Charms, it mega sucks. But more damage is more damage, I guess. Next we have Crimson Lotus, which is the thrust attack I do, which follows up into Devastation, our main skill used for the booms. You basically spam this on everything, though for humans it's kind of annoying since they tend to block the damaging part, a main reason why I dislike Spear since its best move, Tornado, is the same, locked behind a quick attack first. But as you saw with Star Effect, the damage is great. For Mystic Arts, I chose the superior one, Kannagi. You may think Apocalypse for more damage, no? Nah. Kannagi is just too useful, allowing you to cancel literally any attack into Demon Dance. It is necessary for a Devastation tech I'll talk about in a bit, so pick Kannagi. Next we have Mountain Breaker, a fun skill to get at closer distance to enemies. You can actually hop over some enemy attacks, so it's great for that, and could lead to epic moments. Now, probably the most important skill besides Devastation to get is Demon Dance. This allows you to ki pulls backwards, creating distance if you need to, but it's also tied to Kannagi for cancelling out skills. And now for Pulverize, and this is very important, so listen up. As I figured this out from testing, since I was getting annoyed with Demon Dance since you couldn't Demon Dance into a quick attack and then use Devastation, and I found the problem. I had taken Pulverize. So do not get Pulverize on mid stance. I decided neither mid stance nor low stance since those are fast hitting stances, and since high stance is for ki damage anyways, I'll have Pulverize on there since Pulverize's only real use is for breaking ki or guard. But the reasoning you don't want Pulverize is for this. Pulverize disables you from doing a quick attack, and there's no way to toggle it off once you take it. So without Pulverize, we can Demon Dance right back into Devastation from a quick attack continuously over and over until out of ki. This keeps the action going and maximizes DPS. So yeah, if you've taken all 3 Pulverize, I'm afraid you're going to have to use that last Book of Reincarnation, boy. So again, a warning, don't take Pulverize on a stance you prefer to fight in. And aside from those, the only other useful skill is Impenetrability, which acts as a parry when you guard just before a hit against humans. And then Dragon Slayer follows up with a nice combo, which you can Demon Dance after the last hit to not have the long recovery animation that Dragon Dance has. And the rest of the points are up to you, otherwise dump into Melee Mastery for more damage. And that is my first of many Tonfa build, the Devastator. I had a lot of fun using Tonfas in my playthrough, and I had a ton of fun blowing shit up with this one. By the way, make sure to check my playthrough of Defiant Honor if you haven't already. The Tonfas are a fun weapon, However, it's not all sunshine though, as I'm unsure if it's Way of the Wise for all builds or whether it's a damage problem for this build since I haven't upgraded stuff, but don't expect to smoke some of the bosses like I did in the video. There seems to be bosses that, for some reason, are way stronger and tankier by a huge amount that give problems for this build or potentially everyone, like Yuki, White Tiger, and E. So that's just a word of warning for those braving through Way of the Wise for the first time, or for those thinking they'll kill all bosses like I did in the video. That's not the case right now, but it may be in the future once I get to Wise and upgrade gear and stuff like that. But by then, you'd be having ethereal gear, so I don't know. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the build. Hopefully you found the video informative as well. I plan to make a short review of the DLC once I get further into Way of the Wise to really feel the pain, but that'll be in a few days. The next build will be another Tonfa one, but using ethereal sets and high level gear, but will take quite a while before that. Make sure to check the description for some more thoughts on the build, as well as where to get the gear. I also want to thank you guys so much for the support, already rising towards 7.5k subs. I'm glad you guys find my content entertaining or informative. Thank you guys so much. If you like this video or build, explode on that like button all over it, and then comment down below what you think of the Tonfas, or if you have any questions regarding the build. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe for more Nioh epicness.